Welcome to the Genealogy Gems podcast, providing quick and innovative ways to make the absolute most out of your research time and creative ideas for sharing and displaying your family history. I'm your host, Lisa Louise Cook. Hello and welcome to Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 104. Wow, what a week. The new book is finally published. I'm so excited about this. It's called the Genealogist Google Toolbox. And first of all, I can't believe that I made my deadline. I'm so proud of myself, but I have to say it really wasn't me. It was my amazing editors who helped me so much. It's amazing when you're putting a book together, even on a topic like Google that I'm very familiar with, that there's still all these other things that you have to look at. And Vienna, my oldest daughter, was my primary editor. And let me tell you, she is well qualified and does an amazing job because she spotted so many things that completely blew past me. So we've got the formatting straightened out and we've gotten, all that technical stuff done. You know me, I just wanted to focus in on Google and genealogy, but together we got the book done. And again, it's called the Genealogist Google Toolbox. This book is one that I know that lots of you have been asking me to write. I certainly have thought about it. And this last year, I've just been passionate about writing it. And I really wanted to make sure that it was not only stuffed with the best Google tools, but also the most current information. Wow, books become almost obsolete in a year because technology is moving so fast and things are changing so quickly. And so one of the reasons I was really keen to publish this myself and do it through Lulu.com is that I can do revisions and updates as technology changes. So while this book is launching in January of 2011, and it is as current as things can get, I can also go in as things evolve, do some updates, revise the text, and then when you buy that book, they're getting the most current version. So that's the goal anyway. I don't know, it's amazing. Google is moving so fast, it makes my head spin. But the idea is here, I can go back in every, 3 or 6 months, take a look, do some updates, and let you know when a new revision is out. But right now, this book is the newest and the coolest. And it is really stuffed with all the things that I really find that people ask about, things that I'm constantly trying to remember how to do and that I use on a daily basis. And hopefully this is a kind of book that's never going to hit your shelf because it's going to sit on your desk next to your computer, next to your monitor, and it's going to be within arm's reach. So one of the things we did was we put not only a comprehensive table of contents in the front, but you flip to the back and you will find a how-to index. This is something that I did because it's something I want in a book, and you don't see it very often, but we went through and we picked out all the how-to step-by-steps that we did throughout the book. And then those are all alphabetized and categorized by topic, and they're all organized in the back of the book. So if you're thinking, how do I create a Google alert? How do I insert an image in a Google Earth, overlay? You flip to the back, look it up by image or overlay or Google alert, and you're going to find what you're looking for and go straight to that page. Boom, boom, boom. How to. Love it. That's the way it works. I don't want the book to bog you down. I want it to keep you moving and getting your goals accomplished. So the Genealogist Google Toolbox is available from my Genealogy Gems store. Quick and easy way to get there is just to go to genealogygems.com and click store and then follow the links. Or you can go directly to the Genealogy Gems store in Lulu. Go to lulu.com, do a search on Google Genealogy or Google Toolbox, and that will come up. But I'm going to have a link for you directly to the store in the show notes because the store not only includes the new book, which is available in paperback. It's 8.5 by 11. It's a nice size paperback that can lay flat on your desk, or also digital download. And just seeing the copies that have been ordered already, I'm amazed. About half of you probably do digital download, and that's because so many people have e-readers. Me, I'm a paper person. I like it on paper because then it lays open on the desk and I can make my notes and, scribble all over it. But really cool to be able to have it on an e-reader, on your iPhone, wherever it is you put it. I just read that the Barnes & Noble Nook accepts PDF format. The ebook is in a PDF format. So I guess you can just get it right on the newest and latest gadgets. So it's available there, but you'll also find in the Lulu store premium archived episodes that are bundled together in groups of 10. You'll find my other books. So lots of good stuff there. And wanted to make sure that you knew, because I just got an email from Lulu saying that they are offering 10% off across the board, across their website through January 31st of 2011. So when you go there, if you buy anything, use the coupon code READ2011. Do that at checkout, and that will get you 10% off your entire order there at lulu.com. And like I say, I'm really amazed, and I'm just humbled by the amazing response to the book. It's really been phenomenal. Thank you. I have to give a thank you shout out to the genealogy blogger from Australia over at the Geniaus. I think I'm saying that right. Geniaus. Almost looks like the German house and genie, but that's a blog, and she blogged that she'd already bought her copy of the book. So that's really cool. I hope that you guys enjoy it, and I hope that you will drop me a line and let me know what you think of it and any topics that you would like to see in future editions or in future books. Hey, I'm always looking for ideas. So it's Genealogy Gems Podcast at gmail.com. And I have to say, I'm very excited also that we get to debut the book, Vienna and I, at the Family History Expo in Mesa, Arizona this weekend. Been looking forward to this conference. I feel like I've been going 100 miles an hour around here trying to get ready, because I'm not only doing my 4 presentations at the conference, but also I'm doing their keynote address. I've been asked to be the keynote speaker. So I'm working with their slogan, which is teaching old dogs new tricks. So I put together what I think is a pretty fun and hopefully inspirational keynote address. I was a little timid about heading to a conference and calling people old dogs. I didn't know how well that would go over, but I think that they will have some fun and have a couple laughs and kick off the event, hopefully in a very positive, upbeat way. So I look forward to seeing many of you there. I've already heard from lots of you that you'll be at the Mesa Family History Expo. And as I said, January and February is such a busy time for genealogy because after Mesa next weekend, I'll be giving an all-day seminar on Google down at the Whittier Area Genealogical Society in Southern California. Again, Vienna's going to be there with me at that conference. And we'll have the new book there. And then in February, it's the RootsTech conference, February 10th through the 12th of 2011 in Salt Lake City. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be on a panel discussing live webinars and the role that webinar technology can play in genealogy meetings and ongoing education, and just anybody who's interested in learning how to master that technology. That's what we're going to be talking about. It's a pretty cool panel. I saw that I think Maureen Taylor is on it. I think she'll be there virtually. And Allison Stacy, of course, from Family Tree Magazine. Thomas McKenty is going to be our moderator. Lots of folks. So we're going to have a lot of fun. I don't know how they're going to get us to stop talking. That's going to be interesting, but we're going to have a lot of fun. Then after that, Bill and I are going to be heading out to the UK for some time in England. Oh, I have been waiting to do this trip for about 5 years. I've been thinking about it, and now the timing has just kind of come together, and it's going to happen. We're going to be visiting a lot of his ancestral sites in England, sites that I'm probably more familiar with than he is because I've spent so much time researching his ancestors and looking into those different areas. So we're going to take the tour, do all this stuff, and then head over to the Who Do You Think You Are live conference where I'll be speaking on Google search strategies. My first time at that conference. I am really looking forward to it. It's going to be great. So I love getting out to these events. They are all so different, of course, and RootsTech in particular is a new conference, and it's focused on merging technology and genealogy and really exploring the future possibilities for even more innovation. I mean, I think genealogists are some of the most innovative people in general in terms of what's been going on online. But they are going to be exploring even more at the RootsTech conference. And I'm very happy to tell you, you don't have to wait for RootsTech to hear from some of their presenters. And that's because in today's episode, I've got two of them for you. Professional genealogist Kory Meyerink is here. He's going to talk about his presentation that he's going to be giving at RootsTech. He's going to be debuting his new 50 most popular genealogy websites list in his presentation at RootsTech. The list itself, of course, isn't going to be public until the conference, but you're going to get a behind-the-scenes look at how he puts it together, how do they figure out, which sites get visited the most often, and hear about some of the standout websites from the 2010 list and ones that made it to the new list, perhaps, and maybe jockeyed for position. He likened it kind of to the Casey Kasem Top 40. I think it's real similar. Kory was a primary content consultant for the PBS series Ancestors. You may know him from that. And he's also one of the founders of ProGenealogist. This is a busy guy. ProGenealogist is a family research firm, and you may recognize that name because it was recently purchased by Ancestry, like so many things lately. So Kory's going to be here. Really looking forward to having him first time on the show. And then I've got Chris Bair here to talk about a topic that I have been really anxious to learn more about, and that is geo-coding your images. And Chris is an example, really, of how RootsTech is different because he's not a genealogist, but he's going to be there presenting, and his expertise is technology. He's a systems administrator for some of the internal servers at FamilySearch.org. And as a dad of 6 kids, he takes a lot of photographs, you can imagine. So this topic is right up his alley. But before we get to our interviews, I do have a couple of more items I wanted to cover with you here today. First of all, have you subscribed to blogs or email lists in the past? And have you noticed that you haven't been receiving them lately? I'm not sure what's up with that, but I think that email programs like Gmail and Yahoo, they tweak their spam parameters, from time to time. Because I've noticed that a couple of lists that I've been getting for a couple of years now, they are no longer showing up in my inbox. So a quick check of my spam folder proved that they had been rerouted by Gmail to spam. This could certainly happen to the Genealogy Gems podcast newsletter. I'm sure that it does. So how do you make sure that you do receive the emails that you want, even when you've been receiving them for years and then all of a sudden they disappear? Well, first of all, go to your spam folder and select the emails that are not spam. Click the not spam button, or it might be called something else in your email. I think it's called not spam in Gmail. But most services have a function like that. And then be sure and take the second step, which is create a contact in your email system for the sender of the email. So for my newsletter, you would just add Genealogy Gems podcast at gmail.com as a contact in your email account so that when a message comes in from that address, it recognizes it and says, oh, this is, somebody we know. It's really funny because even though I know there's a spam folder, I keep forgetting about it. And when I register for a webinar or something or I sign up for something and then it doesn't come in, I'm always absolutely stumped until I realize it's probably in the spam folder. And sure enough, 9 times out of 10, it's there. So I hope that tip helps you out because it's one that I've been dealing with lately, and it's a good reminder for all of us. Check the spam folder. And I am very happy to say that I'm finally receiving my favorite newsletters again. So hopefully they will stay put for a while. And speaking of missing things, I got an email from premium member Kay Hayden asking about some missing videos. She writes, "This is the first time I've had this problem. There are several videos on the show notes for the free Genealogy Gems podcast, number 103, but they are unavailable. You have the box in the top left-hand corner with the red X. Don't have any warnings about downloading pop-ups or anything like that. Any idea what might be going on? Thanks, Kay Hayden." And she describes herself a devoted listener and subscriber to the premium podcast. Thank you, Kay. Well, Kay, I'm actually a bit stumped too. Just when you think you've got all the technology running properly, like your emails or your videos, everything stops working. So, I checked because I have a couple different computers here. The videos on episode number 103, they show up on my Mac using Safari, no problem. But only the X shows up in that box that you described on my old computer, which has XP, and my new laptop, which has Windows 7, and I use Internet Explorer. And I checked Firefox, they're completely missing. So I'm not sure what that's all about. I'm guessing because these videos actually came from YouTube, so I'm just embedding YouTube videos. I'm not creating new players or anything like that. So it seems really odd that YouTube would have an embed code that wasn't user-friendly, particularly on the PC side. So anyway, I am sure that there's a very logical reason for this. In fact, come on, you guys, you techies out there, if somebody out there has already run into this, send me a line and tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I'm guessing that there's a very quick and easy fix. But what this entire situation did make me aware of is that I need to add the links that go directly to YouTube to the page for the videos that I'm referencing. So that's a good thing to have, whether they're working or not. Just in case you're having trouble with the one, watching it on the show notes, you can click through on the link and get on over to YouTube and watch it there. So if you have already visited episode number 103 and you couldn't see the videos like Kay mentioned, go back to that page and refresh your browser so that you have the most current page, and you'll notice that I have links now there so that they'll take you directly into YouTube where you can watch the videos that I talk about in that episode, because they were really good. I don't want you to miss them. So check that out. And thank you very much, Kay. You're a very alert listener. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate it. Okay, well, coming up next, right after this, we're going to have our first interview, and that is again with Kory Meyerink and the 50 most popular genealogy websites. Well, as I told you, I am heading over to the RootsTech conference on February 10th of 2011 in Salt Lake City, and it's just promising to be a really innovative time. And one of the reasons I know that's going to be the case is because my next guest is going to be there, and he's going to be doing some presentations. Kory Meyerink is a senior genealogist and one of the founders of Pro Genealogist, which is now a division of Ancestry.com. And he has some news, a very exciting list that he is going to be revealing in one of his classes there. So I want to welcome Kory, you to the show, and thank you so much for being here and giving us a little sneak peek.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Lisa.
Well, Kory, this is kind of a first for doing the RootsTech conference. And how did you come to get involved with this conference? And what do you expect to find when you get there?
Two great questions. First, as you well know, RootsTech is just beginning this year. It's the first year of the RootsTech conference, and it's being sponsored by Family Search and a number of other major organizations, including Microsoft and Dell Computers. So it's exciting. Ancestry, who is our current owner of our company, is also one of the major sponsors. But in reality, the RootsTech conference and the concept has been around for a number of years. Until recently, it is essentially the outgrowth of a conference that's been held in March of the last 8 or 10 years at the BYU facilities in Provo, Utah. It was the BYU Family History Computerized Genealogy Conference. And the people at Family Search were looking around and saying, we need to be more engaged with the genealogical community, and the BYU's Computerized Conference already had some sub-conferences associated with it that helped the computer developers and technologists work, and some of the Family Search developers communicate with others about what's going on. And so what they decided is, why don't we take that BYU Computerized Conference and some of the sub-conferences they had, and instead of holding it down on a campus in Provo, expand its reach in greater ways and expand the sponsorship and hold it in Salt Lake instead. And so that's what became the RootsTech Conference. In a very real sense, it fulfills the mission of one of my former bosses, who was one of the founders of Ancestry.com, when he came to me and said, Kory, we need to have our own Comdex for genealogy. For those of your listeners who aren't that familiar with Comdex, It was a major conference held every year down in Las Vegas where all the computer developers came together and showed off their new programs and their new hardware and things like that. And so the BYU Computer Conference acted like that to a small degree, and now RootsTech is going to take on that mantle and be the gathering place for all things technology and genealogy and help both developers and users understand each other better and understand what's going on in the field and what new things are happening.
And of course, some of the heavyweights like Microsoft and Dell that are going to be there are really emphasizing that whole aspect of the fact that this is not just genealogy. This is really the marriage of genealogy and technology. And I think that's really neat that they have taken it beyond the genealogy community and embraced technology as such a key part of what we're doing. It certainly is. And it seems like RootsTech is kind of a reflection of the evolution that's kind of going on at Family Search, don't you think? Just with the new website and everything else.
Mm-hmm. It is. And that really helps significantly because that way we have the ability to communicate with people better in all aspects of the field of genealogy and technology.
So I'm guessing you're expecting that this conference may become an annual event.
That is certainly the indication and the expectation of Family Search.
Right, right. Now, you're going to be there. How many courses are you going to be teaching during RootsTech?
I'll be doing 2 courses there.
Okay, and so we're going to be talking about, of course, one of them, which is the 50 websites, but what's the other one you're going to be doing?
You know, I have to go look that up right now. I wasn't prepared for that question.
I know the feeling.
It's oriented towards issues of appropriate ways to use search engines. I know exactly how we've titled that. I'll have to look that up and get back to you on that momentarily.
You've given all the listeners a sneak peek into the world of us lecturers who get out there, and it's like you're just one conference ahead, right?
Exactly. That's the way it is oftentimes.
Well, we're going to talk about, of course, the 50 most popular genealogy websites, and that is one of the classes that I know that a lot of people are really excited to come here because you guys at Pro Genealogists have been publishing this for the last couple of years, but at RootsTech, this is the big announcement for 2011, right?
It is. And in fact, I'm still in the process of doing the evaluation and the research necessary to say what the top 50 websites are, because it's a very complex process to look at the rankings of those websites and merge them into one new website, one new ranking system.
Well, now, one of the key words in the title is popular, which got me wondering. So this is not necessarily Pro Genealogists saying these are the 50 top best websites to be the most effective, but this is really popularity in terms of what are genealogists across the world using. Is that right? Am I hearing that right?
You are absolutely correct. That is exactly what we're doing. I was a little bit fed up years ago thinking, everybody's got their own personal list of their favorite or best websites, and Family Tree Magazine, to their credit, does a list every year of the 101 best websites. But it's not the same websites every year. Does that mean the others are not best? No. They've categorized things. And one year they'll do for instance, this past year, they did the 101 best free websites. Mm-hmm. So best is a very subjective issue. It's not best for me if it doesn't have my ancestors on it, right?
Exactly.
So therefore, I said, if there's plenty of best and preferred and my favorites websites out there, let's find out what the population as a whole are using and what are they doing and where are they spending their time, because that might be an indicator of value. If there's a website out there that 10 million people are using and I don't know about it, might I be interested in that website?
And I imagine even though there are people out there who are really keen on keywords and ranking up their websites, sometimes we click on a link and you go to some website and you go, what is this? It looks like just somebody threw a bunch of stuff together, but boy, do they have great keyword searches. But they're really not going to last, are they? They're not going to be the one that millions of people go back to again and again on purpose.
Just having great search engine access and great keywords isn't going to bring people back again and again and again. And therefore, long-term traffic and overall access to the websites is, I think, what is a better traffic indicator.
Exactly.
They're day in and day out and all throughout the year.
Well, now, before I start trying to manipulate you into telling us what some of these websites are, give us an idea. What data sources do you go to determine this ranking?
I appreciate the chance to discuss that because, in my mind, that's where the real value of the list is and knowing how it's been put together. When I listen to the top 40 songs on the radio, for instance. I'm wondering, how are they compiling this? How do they know that these are the top 40 songs this week? And there are some ways to know that, and there are some ways to know that in the field of genealogy and websites as well. As some of your listeners will know, there are companies out there which actually measure the strength and the usage of websites using a variety of different metrics or measuring tools. They'll look at how many people visit a website. They'll look at how long some people stay on a website, how sticky it is in the parlance of a web developer. They'll look at the number of pages, the number of links that go to that website, the amount of times people return to that website, and they all have different ways of measuring. And in that vein, every one of those companies, these metrics companies, comes up with their own personal list of the most popular, most used websites out there. Now, they're not doing it for genealogists, they're doing it for all websites, and therefore, if you were to go to one of those companies and look at their list, their number one website will probably be something like Google. And number 2 or 3 might be Wikipedia. These are websites that everybody on the web gets familiar with and ends up using on a significant basis. But then they've got another one listed as number 4 and 5 and 6 and number 218. And each of these companies that uses these kind of metrics measures things differently for different reasons. There are probably 8 to 10 of these type of measuring companies out there of some significance. They are making their money by web companies coming to them and saying, you need to tell us, or can you tell us, about our customers and who likes our competition more than they like us, and who's visiting where and where those people come from. And they have very sophisticated heuristics and algorithms to help them figure those things out, and they charge companies hundreds and thousands of dollars for that kind of information. I'm a genealogist. We don't have hundreds and thousands of dollars. Every researcher out there realizes, just like with our favorite subscription companies, some data is out there for free, and I have to pay for other data. Of these metrics and measuring companies, there are 4 of them which put significant data about the web and their various sites out there for free, where they rank companies. They don't tell you a lot about the company and all the measurements about the company, but they do tell you where that company ranks based on the traffic as they measure it by whatever guide sticks and measuring devices they use. To that end, I've used those 4 different companies. They're called Alexa.com, Quantcast.com, Compete.com, and Ranking.com. And each of those 4 companies publishes online an ongoing list of their ranking of the websites. Some of them focus on U.S. sites, some of them focus on international sites, and so their rankings may be different. But I can go to them and look up a particular genealogy's website, a company's website. Let's talk about one, for instance, very few people are familiar with, a website called GenWed, GenWed.com. They focus on marriage records. And so I can go look up GenWed.com at these 4 companies, and one company will say it ranks 3,512. Another one will say it ranks 4,018. Another one will say it ranks on 512. At any rate, they've ranked it against all the other websites in the world. And so what I've done is gone and looked up this, got their ranking at those individual ones, and applied that ranking to just the genealogy sites on those websites. So I can say, according to Compete.com, GenWed comes in at number whatever. And over at Ranking.com, it comes in at a different level of all the genealogy websites.
And that brings up a question in my mind, which is, and of course it's in the title of your class, which is the most popular genealogy websites. One, how does a website identify itself as being primarily a genealogy website? As you know, there's always that overlap. But 2, are you going into these sites like Quantum and putting in the word genealogy and gain a list, or are you having to identify the site first and then go in and run it and see what the ranking is?
There's actually a combination, and I do a little bit of both. In order to actually get the ranking for a site, you have to identify a specific site. So I can go to Quantcast and I can type in GenWed or Ancestry.com for that matter. I can type in FamilySearch.com, and I will get their ranking against all the other sites that they rank by whatever criteria they're using. So I have to have a URL. Now, I can also go to some of these sites and type in genealogy, and they'll give me back a category of what they've ranked. For instance, Quantcast will give me a list ranked of what they call genealogy websites. And they will have it ranked even in the top 200, and I'll have an order there. However, they don't rank every website I call a genealogy website, and they rank some and call it a genealogy site that I say is not a genealogy site. For instance, one of my favorite examples of this is a website that Quantcast consistently calls a genealogy website, and the title of the website is called Caballerian Philosophy. Now, does that even sound
right
to you or your listeners? The reason it's there is because on the Caballerian Philosophy website is a list of names and the meanings of those names in their philosophical tradition. Well, meanings of names is genealogy to some, and apparently to Quantcast. At the same time, you are probably familiar with our friend in New Jersey, Ilya Diazizio,
yes,
of Genealogy Today. Genealogy Today is a very popular website, but Quantcast doesn't even know it exists, and so it doesn't give it a ranking. In their most, I'll put it this way, they don't call it a genealogy website. They give it a ranking, but it's not flagged as a genealogy site. And yet the name of the site is Genealogy Today.
You know, one of the ways it happens is, and my website is an example, you know, the evolution of websites. My podcast, which gets tens of thousands of downloads each month, the actual podcast is a blog on a different URL. My main website, of course, which holds all the other general content, is under the genealogygems.com. But my blog, I started under Free Blogger. So they're all linked, and the user experience is one visit to this, you know, vast website. But in the ranking, it kills me because it chops it all up and looks like, oh, she got 10 here, you know, whatever. And so I could see it's really an art form. It's not a science. And it sounds like that's what the benefit of the fact that you're coming from a lot of different directions. You're feeding in the URLs, but you're also looking at their list and comparing and seeing, did I miss anything? Or does that not even qualify?
Exactly. So when Quantcast has this list, or their 200 genealogy websites, it at least tells me, hey, these sites need to be thought about.
Yeah.
And said these are genealogy sites, and I can include them or not include them, but that becomes one of about 6 different sources I used in order to come up with a group of about 350 or so websites that are, by our definition, a genealogical website. And that's another issue. We have to define what is a genealogical website. Now, I don't think anybody who knows Genealogy Today or Family Search or Ancestry would argue that that is a genealogy website.
Right.
But how about the Bureau of Land Management?
Oh, I mean, we totally think of that as a genealogy website, but of course, it's like all the National Archives websites and that kind of thing.
Exactly. A lot of people use the BLM website that don't do genealogy at all. And therefore, it has traffic that's generated by that. One of my favorite examples is there's a wonderful collection of marriage records for the state of Illinois on a wonderful website. The website is the Secretary of State for Illinois.
Yeah. Wow, what a challenge you must have. I mean, I would hazard to guess, maybe except for Ancestry, the number one genealogy website is google.com. When you really think about the Google searches that we do on a constant basis in all areas of our research, and then into Google Books and, you know, Google Translate, we're constantly using it, and yet I'm guessing it does not fall in your category when you're doing this. We're really talking sites devoted to genealogy. Exactly.
Google is a wonderful site. I use it on a daily basis. I use it in my sleep, almost literally. You know, I'll come up with some way to construct a Google search, and I've given talks on Googling for genealogy, and that's not an issue. It's very, very important. But this was designed to understand the ranking and popularity of entire sites that are strictly genealogy, not individual web pages or not big mega sites. For that matter, whitepages.com is used by genealogists quite a bit.
Of course.
Because they leave the addresses of people. There are people finder sites out there that we use to locate what happened to somebody. But they are also used by private investigators and by people trying to find their lost roommate and things like that. So there's a relatively long list of concept or conceptually what has been excluded from the list, including general reference sites, Britannica.com, or some of the other sites that people just go look up facts on. Every student in every middle school looks up things on Wikipedia, and I look up people on Wikipedia all the time for my research. So the same is true in those ways. Phone books, phone directories, they're not just a genealogical site. The Department of Veterans Affairs has a wonderful U.S. gravesite locator. You can find 2 million graves of veterans. But most of the people going to the Veterans Affairs website are not doing genealogical research.
Well, then let's get into this 50 most popular. Now, I know you're revealing the list for the first time in its entirety at RootsTech, but you mentioned, for example, a website like genwed.com, which is one that maybe people haven't heard so much about. What would be one of the websites that made it onto your list this year that you think might be kind of a sleeper? One that maybe, yes, it's getting a lot of popularity, maybe, but it's in a growth stage and lots of other people may not have heard of it.
Well, actually, I'm going to defer to last year's list for that, Lisa, because I'm still putting together this.
Okay.
But for instance, last year's list was a website called genealogybuff.com that the previous year had ranked 134th. And in 2010, it jumped up to about somewhere in the 30s. I don't really have that right in front of me. And part of that happened because the website developer contacted me after the list came out in 2009 and said, my internal traffic tells me I'm doing better than some of the sites on your list. Why aren't I listed there? I explained the methodology to him, and he must have done something or did more advertising, or his traffic went up, or he figured out how to get a better ranking on those websites that I mentioned, the ranking sites, because he's using the same criteria I'd used for past years. It came up onto number 34. Now, I happen to think that it's a case of his material got more important and got better, and there's another example of that with a website that used to be oriented just to Illinois data, but in 2006 they modified their name. I'm not going to tell. You can figure it out from the list. But I'm just telling you the kind of things that happen.
Yeah.
And they started putting data from other websites, other states on their website. And because of that, it got broader usage. And therefore, it migrated up into the top 50.
Were there any websites that really surprised you this year, making either a big jump up or down? You don't have to tell us the ranking, but do you tend to see a lot of movement like that, or does it just tend to shuffle a little bit?
There's a little bit of shuffling. There's some sites in the same relative position, but last year, one site jumped from 80 to number 2. There's some sites that have dropped out of the top 50. Some move into the top 50. It's very much like Casey Kasem's top 40 radio show. I'm telling you what popular songs
right
in a given week. And that's the interesting thing. So I actually, in my PowerPoint presentation, have a little triangle instead of a bullet to show that they're, on one of the hot ones on the list that's moving up. Excellent. So we also identify a couple of favorite ones who drop out of the list. People say, well, what happened to so-and-so? It's always interesting. People have their favorite websites. But so far, every time I presented this and challenged the audience to tell me if they knew all 50 of these sites, everybody comes back and says, wow, there were many on that list I'd never heard of. And when I did this same ranking and put this list of 350 or so together, there were sites I'd never heard of, and yet they cropped up in the top 12 or 15 or 20 sites.
Are there any trends that you tend to see, like since you first started doing the list? I'm thinking, for example, there's anybody can create a website, anybody can have terrific data. You never know what's going on behind the scenes of the website. But do you find a dominance more and more so by corporate websites? Or do you find that still the individuals are making a big impact in the world of genealogy?
Truly, the individuals are still making a big impact. And the corporate's making some impact, too. There's a website called Family History 101. It mostly just provides instructional information. A useful website. I'd never heard of it. I was surprised to see it make it in the top 50 over the last couple of years and to continue to be growing. It's an individual out there who just puts together some how-to articles. He's not even selling anything that I can find on. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have links to a lot of records, but for some reason, he's either marketing it well or what. I guess he might probably have some ads. He's probably making a little bit of money from banner ads or something of that nature. But one thing I've pointed out to the people I've shared these lists with is that new sites continue to show up on there. There are a couple of new sites are on the 2010 list, and there will be a couple of new sites probably on the 2011 list. And subscription sites are showing up on there that didn't exist 4 and 5 years ago. Genealogy Bank, Footnote. These are new sites and they are corporate sites in this particular sense. So we're seeing a mix and a growth of both of them. Private individual sites where people, they indicated this Illinois site that sort of went public, as it were, by going into more states and getting more traffic because of that. And so it's still dominated by individual and nonprofit sites. There are 9 subscription sites in the top 50.
Wow.
So that means that 82% are not subscription sites.
Yeah, but just a wide mix. And of course, we want to see the really good sites be successful, and I think that to not fade away, they have to have that value, something that they can generate their income to keep those sites funded and going. And boy, genealogists seem to be so innovative. It's exciting to watch the whole marketplace move, and we can certainly do that, of course, with your 50 most popular genealogy websites. I know I'm going to be there. I can't wait to hear what the 2011 list is. I always love to see if there's any surprise websites out there that we haven't heard about, because we can always add that to our bookmark list.
There will be. For instance, in closing, everybody knows Cindy's list, and it certainly does rank there.
Yeah.
But I was just reviewing last year's list with a group this morning and was reminded there are 2 of the what I call gateway or pointer or link lists, link websites out there that actually rank higher than Cindy's list. And most people I talk to aren't familiar with them. So apparently they're attracting the non-genealogist family historian through whatever means, because everyone knows that we know and knows Cindy's list, and it does rank well. But there are 2 other link list sites that actually rank higher than hers.
No matter how hard we try, nobody can cover everything. So thank goodness there are multiples out there.
Exactly. 11 different sites on the top 50 are mostly link lists. 24 of them are data sites.
Interesting. Well, of course, if you want to check out this list and be the first ones to hear it, you're going to do it at RootsTech. But if you're not able to come to RootsTech, Kory, how will they get their hands on the 2011 list?
It will probably end up on the Pro Genealogist site where we have the last 3 years. And there will probably be some bloggers who write about it after RootsTech. We've always had that. Whenever we display the list, a number of bloggers pick up on it, and then they'll link back to where we post the list. So that's where it will be. And those of you who can't come are always welcome to email me, which they can find my email on the Pro Genealogist website as well.
Fantastic. Kory, thank you so much for taking time out and whetting our appetite for not only RootsTech, but of course for your terrific list. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you. And just to answer your original question, the other class we're talking about is called Effective Database Search Techniques. Excellent. Effective Database Search Techniques. Awesome. So make sure you get everything out of Ancestry or every other database that you might not be getting because you're not searching it as effectively as you could. There's classes like that all day long, 3 days worth of them at RootsTech.
They can also continue to order their registrations online, and I'm guessing they'll probably even accept people at the door.
I'm sure they will. And there'll be great vendors to see there. It's going to be a fantastic gathering, and it will be our field's Comdex.
So when you get there, where's the first place you're going? Where does Kory go to find what's new?
I'll spend more time in the exhibit hall.
Yeah.
I want to talk to exhibitors. I know many of the exhibitors. I want to make sure what's happening for them, and there'll be new stuff there. I just saw that at the couple of recent conferences this last year. I was there at the NGS conference, and there were people and vendors vending new things and new products. It's always exciting to see that there's now a portable scanner that's even smaller than my laptop that I can take with me to a county courthouse.
Isn't that amazing? And so many of these places, when you head up to the exhibit booth, you can actually try it hands-on, which is really cool.
It is. And the nice thing, too, for people who live in the Salt Lake area or just going to be in Salt Lake, the exhibit area is going to be free. You don't have to buy registration for the classes to go to the exhibit area.
Oh, fantastic. So they can drop in during their lunch break on Friday or head on in and spend the day on Saturday and just see what's new in the exhibit hall. You learn so much. I always tell people, one of the main things besides attending classes is not only go to the exhibit hall, but ask questions. I mean, these are the experts, aren't they?
Exactly.
Well, Kory, thanks again so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I'm hoping that I can pull you aside and we'll do a quick little video interview and get your impressions about this new and innovative RootsTech conference.
I'm excited to see you there and see what we can share with your listeners.
Roots Magic 4 has been completely rewritten and is now even more powerful and makes building your family tree easier than ever. I love it. With Roots Magic, you can add unlimited facts, find anyone in your database with lightning speed with Roots Magic Explorer, quickly and easily create perfectly formatted sources with the Roots Magic Source Wizard, create customized reports, and best of all, you can now take Roots Magic wherever your research takes you with the Roots Magic to Go, which lets you run Roots Magic directly off your flash drive. And Roots Magic makes it a snap to share your family history, publish a book, create stunning wall charts, shareable CDs, even generate websites automatically from your data. To download your risk-free trial of Roots Magic 4, head to rootsmagic.com. See why professionals and beginners alike choose Roots Magic at rootsmagic.com. Well, as you all know, I have been chatting up the fact that I'm going to be heading to the RootsTech conference in Salt Lake City in February of 2011, and it is really going to be a first in so many different ways. And as I was looking through the schedule, I saw some terrific courses coming up, and one of them that caught my eye is one that I know that many of you have asked about, and that's geo-coding your images. So I got on the line with Chris Bair, who is a systems administrator for some of the internal servers over at familysearch.org, and he agreed to come on the show, give us a little sneak peek at the upcoming class. Welcome to Genealogy Gems, Chris.
Thanks.
This is really a first as far as RootsTech goes, but give us a little bit on your background. I'm guessing you've been working in technology and genealogy over at Family Search for quite a while.
Mostly technology. I really got my introduction to genealogy when I started here. I signed on as one of the help desk guys when you'd have problems with PAF and all that sort of stuff. You'd call the phone number, and I was one of the guys who was on that. And about 6 or 7 months ago, I got a promotion to taking care of servers. So, yeah, I actually don't do much with genealogy other than just my own little stuff. I'm having so many little kids as I do. I haven't quite gotten to that part of my life yet, but it has been nice to be working with genealogy so that it's more of a focus in my life than it would have been otherwise.
Well, I think that is one of the really neat things about this conference is that it is not strictly just genealogists who are coming to speak, but they are really bringing in the folks with the technical knowledge, and that's your expertise. Now, I know you're going to be talking about geocoding your images. So for those of us folks who are listening who are thinking, what is that? Give us a quick elevator speech. What is geocoding for your images?
Well, it's basically just putting the location, kind of embedding the location of where you took a photo along with some other keywords, maybe a description, things like that, actually into the image file. So it's part of the image. You send that to somebody, it comes along with it. If you forget where you took it, it's always there. If you upload the photo to a photo sharing site like Flickr or something like that recognizes geotags, it'll put it right there on the map and show you where it was.
Right. So it's really adding location to our digital images. And of course, for genealogy, it's all about location. Tell us, is geocoding something where we're going to have this?
So it could be like, as far as with location goes, a lot of genealogists need to track where a gravestone is, or if they happen to go on a trip to England and they're going around the ancestral hamlet and they want to take a picture of the old shed in the backyard where their great-great-grandmother gave birth to, whomever, then they're able to keep track of that, and they don't have to worry about forgetting stuff.
Exactly. Now, does our equipment need to be built in? Do we need to have kind of the most up-to-date equipment to do geocoding?
Not really. Whenever I do geocoding, I just I have a smartphone that has a GPS built into it. And it's actually pretty inexpensive. You just run a free program on the smartphone that records where you go. If you don't have a phone like that, they have little boxes that you can get that have their own battery that keep track of where you're going, and then you can use that afterwards. But you can get insanely expensive cameras that put the geolocation right into the photo when you take it. But I'm really cheap, and I go for the inexpensive route, and I really like my the camera that I have. So I just record where I go, and then use a free program afterward that takes the location that you were, the track of the locations that you went, along with the timestamps on the photos, and it figures out where they were taken.
Now, I know as you were talking, I was visualizing in the old days when we took video, and sometimes with the cameras as well, and it would stamp that date right there on the image. This is quite a bit different, isn't it?
It is. So it's not something that you see, like, for instance, if you open up a photo in like a web browser or in a image editing program, you don't see all of that date and all the other information in there. It's one of the things I talk about I go into kind of the history of all this metadata. Metadata is data kind of in the background that you don't normally see. But it's really cool, all the stuff that digital cameras will record into the photos. It'll record the date and the time, how open the lens was, the focal range, whether the flash fired. There's all sorts of stuff that's in there. And in some programs you have to kind of delve in deep to get that, but in other ones it's right there in front of you. And that metadata is really what's key here. And that's one of the things that the geotagging does, is it just sets some additional fields saying this is where it was at.
So what is then the big advantage? Here we've got it, encoded into our digital image, and we download our photographs off the camera. They're onto our computer now. What's the big advantage, and why should somebody then come to the class to kind of learn all the ins and outs?
Well, the big advantage is when you send the photo to someone else, that location comes along with it. If you forget where it was taken, you have that as a record. Another really big advantage, I use this on all of my vacation photos. Anytime we go to California or down to Arches National Park or something like that, I just have the track recording going, and then when we get back, I put all the photos together with where they were at, and then I can create what's called a KMZ file. It's something used by Google Earth. It has the track of where you went, along with all of the photos that you took in a single self-contained file that you can email to someone. My dad and I, we went to New York City, and so after I was done, this was actually the first thing I ever did with geocoding. I made a KMZ file of our trip and sent it off to him, and it was really cool because you could see on a little red line going all around New York City, and we took a boat at one time, so it showed us going around the Statue of Liberty with photos actually there on Google Earth showing you where the photo was, and it's a really cool way to show your photos to people.
Oh, well, now you're singing our song, because I've produced a series on Google Earth for genealogy, and so many people listening, their ears just perked up because they've used Google Earth in a lot of different ways. So I'd love to delve into this a little bit. When you talked about the KMZ file, did you then go in and embed those pictures one by one, or did you do some kind of a mass download to get them into your KMZ?
Well, the programs that I like to use, I always like freeware because I'm cheap with all those kids of mine. But most of the programs that allow you to do geocoding allow you to also export all the images, either a large image or a small thumbnail of the image, along with the track into a Google Earth document. And so the one that I like to use is called GeoCetter. It's free. You could also use Picasso or a bunch of other ones. But yeah, one of the things is export to Google Earth, and it's as easy as that.
Wow, so then it's really embedding it and locating it on the exact pinpointed location on the map. So as you zoom in, they're going to pop up and you're going to see them. What a time saver compared to setting a place mark and embedding a photograph.
Yeah, well, and you also, if you don't have, let's say you don't have some way to record your location, or if you have old photos that you shot with a film camera, you can actually use the same programs to go in and place the pictures manually. But if you can record it and do it automatically, it's so much more accurate, and it's really fast, and it's just really cool.
You bet. So is that like a longitude, latitude type of coordinate? Is that what it's zooming in on?
Yep, it records where you were at and what time, and the latitude and longitude, and yep.
Oh, fantastic. Now, you mentioned in the class you're going to give us the history. I'm curious, how far back, how old is this? Not very old, right?
Well, so you've got GPS, which has been around since the 70s.
Right.
And then you've got IPTC, which then gave way to EXIF, both of which have been around since the early 80s. It was originally so that photographers who worked for news agencies could put their names in there so they'd get credit. But it's then been taken from there, and it's what all the digital cameras use.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's going to be a pretty exciting conference because, listening to you talk about it, just realizing, as much as we've explored here on the show, there is so much more that can be done. And so much of it is a time saver. That's what's really exciting. Now, is this the one class you're doing, or are you teaching some other classes there at RootsTech?
I'm just doing the one. When the whole RootsTech thing was proposed, I actually am one of the guys involved in the servers of that sort of stuff, and my manager's like, so we need a whole bunch of people to do some stuff. Hey, Bair, you know about geotagging. Why don't you do one of that? I'm like, oh, okay. So I submitted a proposal, and I was really surprised when it got accepted, but hey, it's going to be cool.
Oh, you bet. And I know that the genealogists are just going to eat this up. One more question came to mind. You mentioned meta tags. Now, meta tags and geo-coding, similar but not exactly the same. What's a quick difference between the two?
So geotags or geo-coding, whichever one you want to call it, it's about the same thing. That's just putting in the latitude and longitude, location information into the EXIF metadata. So EXIF is kind of what holds all of the keywords, the title, description. You can have who's in the photo, the date, all that stuff. That's the normal EXIF data. But then also, if you add the latitude and longitude, then it's a geocoded image that has those tags in there.
Exactly. Well, very cool. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. I have a feeling you're going to see lots of folks in your class because this is a really interesting topic. And of course, we're all out there taking pictures. How nice not to have to scratch our brain and try to remember where in the world we took them. Thanks so much for joining us here on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks so much for joining me for episode 104 of the Genealogy Gems podcast. And a very special thanks to my guests, Kory Meyerink and Chris Bair. Interesting stuff. I cannot wait for RootsTech. I hope that many of you who are listening who might have been on the fence about attending that conference, you're going to go for it because it's going to be great. I will have a link for you to take you over to the RootsTech website, or just do a Google search on RootsTech 2011, and you can register right there online. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, if you have solutions for missing videos, all those things that we've talked about here on the show, you can drop me a line at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. And of course, while you're over at YouTube, be sure and check out the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel. Click the little subscribe button, and that way when I produce and post a new video, you'll get a little notification letting you know that there's a new video there to watch. And before I forget, because I have been forgetting the last couple episodes, just want to remind those of you with the Genealogy Gems podcast app, there is premium content with most episodes. So be sure and click Show Extras. I think that's the name of the button. And check that out because we've got little videos in there. We've got extra audio. I think in the last episode, I did a PDF download of some additional Google search strategies for Google Books. So lots of little special goodies for those of you using the app. Well, that's about it. So thank you so much. I am off to the Family History Expo in Mesa. Thanks for listening, friend. I'll talk to you soon.